What's up everybody, George from F1 Chronicle back again, and today I'm bringing you 5 things that we learned from the 2024 Japanese Grand Prix, and it was a good race this morning. I really enjoyed it personally, and there was action right from the very start. Daniel Ricciardo and Alexander Albon bringing out the red flags by going into the barriers on the first lap. I personally think it was a racing incident. I don't think it was anybody's fault, really. Ricciardo reacted to a Stroll on his left, so he pulled to the right, and then Albon was just run out of road because of that. This happens in racing, you know, it's Formula 1, it's the first lap, no one's fault, just one of those things. But the key thing from that, really, is Ricciardo, a guy who is under pressure, you know, going out on the first lap. And, you know, whether it's his fault or not, I don't think it's his fault. That doesn't seem to matter to people like, you know, the people that run Red Bull. And especially as well with his teammate Yuki Tsunoda scoring points in his home race. The first Japanese driver to score points in his home race in 12 years since the great Kamui Kobayashi back in the day did it in 2012. So yeah, Ricciardo, a man under pressure. Something else I want to point out as well from the strategy point of view, because I thought the strategy was actually quite fascinating in Japan today. And something that I noticed, I don't know if it was a combination of, you know, relatively high track temperatures, the type of tyres that Pirelli brought for this weekend or what, but the undercut this weekend was huge. It was massive. When these guys pitted, they were making up huge amounts of times, hand over fist. You really first noticed that with Valtteri Bottas when he stopped. He actually overtook someone despite him having like a 4-second pit stop from Sauber. And Norris was the person who showed it the most, really. He pitted relatively early. He was struggling on his medium tyres, and he managed to undercut a lot of the leaders. He actually managed to undercut Sergio Perez, and he wasn't that far behind of Max Verstappen when he did his stop eventually as well. So the undercut huge, and that's something that we could see at potentially hotter rounds as the season goes on. If it's hot in China, we could see it there. If it's hot in Miami, which it usually is hot in Miami, we'll probably see it there too. So stay tuned with that one. Speaking of strategy, number 3, I want to talk about Mercedes, and it was an interesting one for sure. Sir Lewis actually, you know, graciously admitting that, you know, should George Russell go ahead of him, and he did. He moved out of the way for him. But you know, the niceties kind of ended there, really. Hamilton complaining on the radio that they need to change the strategy. They started on the hard tyres, ran them quite long, but they were really struggling. The hard tyres were not the one this weekend. The mediums were where it was at, really. But yeah, it didn't end up affecting them too much. George Russell coming back in 7th, Hamilton in 9th. That's kind of where Mercedes are in terms of pace. And Russell only getting ahead of Oscar Piastri on like the last lap because of a mistake from the McLaren driver. So yeah, Mercedes not looking too great. Ferrari though recovering. I mean, I highlighted those guys in the qualifying 5 things that was posted yesterday, which you'll be able to see on all our social channels on f1chronicle.com, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, Ferrari recovered really well. Sainz ended up in 3rd. Charles Leclerc, though, for me, driver of the day. I don't know if he actually won driver of the day for the race itself, but yeah, brilliant job. Came home in 4th place. He was holding off Perez for a while. He ran half the race on the medium tyres when most people did 20 laps at the most. He was going nearly 30 on them. So excellent job by him. Great job. You know, he's a guy who's come under some fire. You know, we've been asking on F1 Chronicle, you know, how Ferrari dropped the wrong driver, and today it's a lot less clear with that. You know, Leclerc doing a much better job today. And something else I want for my final point for number 5, I just want to mention that, I mean, it's something that we spoke about a bit, but like the gap between these top 5 teams and the rest of the field is massive. It's huge. You know, the guys further down the grid are going to do very well to score any kind of points, and this kind of emphasises it. In a race that had no safety cars, the only stoppage we had was the red flag, so we effectively had an entire race distance. You know, it was nearly a 50-second gap between Hamilton in 9th and Yuki Tsunoda in 10th. That is huge, and that shows the massive disparity between the top half and the bottom half of the grid. But what are your takeaways from Japan? What are the things that you noticed most from the Japanese Grand Prix of 2024? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to head over to f1chronicle.com for all your news, reviews, and everything in between.